All right, good morning. We've got actually Sourav, who is a spokesperson for the Cockroach Janta Party, who's live with us today. And the idea with this conversation was to just figure out what's going on with this protest, what the purpose of the protest is, um, and what it is they're asking for, how they're going to go forward. Let me just include Sourav in the conversation. If Hi Sourav, morning.
Hi, good morning, Faye.
So, sort of my first question to you, and this is the first question that's coming on my Instagram page also. What is the state of Sonam Wangchuk's health? In fact, Nila Addictive has said, are you going to arrange a saline drip or something to look after him better? What is going on with him?
We are continuously monitoring his health, and there's a team of doctors who check up on him twice a day, and his sugar levels have sort of stabilized now at around
Okay.
60, which is below normal, of course. But yeah, he's okay. He says that he's fine, but then we
Hmm.
do see him getting weaker by the day. When he goes for washroom breaks and when he talks to the press, we do see the effects of being hungry for so many days kicking in.
And what are you going to do? So, this is a sensitive question to ask. So, if he continues to be hungry, and I understand it's been day 6 now, goes forward, he's obviously not going to be able to move around so much. Based on what your party has said, he's only drinking water. What is your plan going
Hot
forward?
water. So the protest is going to continue until Dharmendra Pradhan's accountability is fixed. Now, we of course care too much about Sonam ji, and of course we can't lose him. So we are continuously monitoring his health, and we'll see if his health deteriorates a lot. Then we'll
Hmm.
see what options we have. We'll also consult him because he's the one sitting on this prolonged hunger strike. So we'll take into account what he says and then decide.
Okay, so my understanding is that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is the key demand. Has anyone from government spoken to you about this? Anyone from government come to have a conversation about what it is you are asking for?
It's unfortunate, Faye. People have been sitting here for more than 15 days now. Today is the 16th day of the sit in protest, 8th day of hunger strike. And not a single person from the government, be it officers or ministers or even BJP leaders for that matter, have reached out on the issue. It really shows that democracy is failing. The social contract between the elected and the electors, that is simply broken. It's a sad state of our democracy.
But Saurav, there's been some as journalists, and for those who don't know, Saurav has a day job. He's a journalist. For those of us in the sector, we know that there are rumors about a cabinet reshuffle. So let's assume in this reshuffle, the government doesn't talk to you at all, doesn't give the CJP any credit for it, but just shuffles Pradhan out of that ministry into a different ministry. Will you consider that a victory?
See, our goal is very clear that Dharmendra Pradhan's accountability has to be fixed.
Hmm.
Whether that is through Prime Minister publicly, depreciating his conduct, or the government reshuffling him, or the government making him resign. We want his accountability to be fixed. And that could even happen by the opposition, in Parliament raising this issue. But yes, our key demand is his resignation. And as and when this reshuffle or his resignation happens, then we'll take a call on what next. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Because
but
so sorry to interrupt you. Pragati has also brought this up, saying what is the way forward with speculation about a reshuffle. So one of the things that's being speculated about is he'll be given another ministry, or he will be given an administrative position within the BJP, because they have this policy that nobody can hold more than one post in the BJP. So you're saying after that happens, you'll decide whether or not it's a victory and whether or not you want to call off the protest.
absolutely. But one thing is very clear that, for instance, if he is shifted to the oil ministry,
Hmm.
now we our issue is education focused, youth centric issues focused. We don't know what is going on in the oil ministry, so we'll not be able to comment on his merits via the oil ministry, right? So that is also something we need to be fair also. But of course, the ideal situation would be him being shunted out of the cabinet, and that would be real accountability.
Would you want to, and would you want to say in who replaces him? Because I know that there's people have asked you this question, and you've said someone who's competent, someone like Sonam Wangchuk, but really, realistically, nobody gets a say in who becomes a minister. Again, some of the buzz says that maybe it might be Raghav Chadha. If I mean, do you want a say, and would you have a reaction to who that person is? And by you, I mean the party.
Yeah, if you personally ask me, I have no hopes from the current lot of cabinet ministers. Now, I also read reports, and I have it on good account that the RSS is pressuring the BJP to shunt out some of these IAS officers who are in the cabinet and give the role to people with political backgrounds, basically leaders from the party or the RSS. So even so, that is also an issue. But I also have it on good account that the cabinet reshuffle is probably not happening before the parliament session. It might only
Mm.
happen after the parliament session is over. So I think these are all speculations. We really need to be, as a movement, we are really focused on demanding Dharmendra Pradhan's accountability, number one. And number two is the 1 crore compensation for the families of the students who have died by suicide. That is our second key demand.
1 crore each.
1 crore each family, yes.
That's about 15 so far.
The close to 30 deaths.
Close to 30 deaths. Okay. In
Yes.
fact, that the follow-up question coming in from one of our viewers is, so what is your POA if Pradhan doesn't resign? Mr. Wangchuk can't be in this state for this long. It's a fair question. If you
Absolutely.
think shuffle is not going to happen before monsoon session goes on till August.
Till August, yes. And that's the unfortunate part. Of course, we can't lose Sonam ji. He's a national treasure in that sense. And I don't think Dharmendra Pradhan is even worth it. So, like I said, when things happen and as the days go, we'll consider what to do next. We'll also have to talk to Sonam ji. That is also very important because he is the one sitting on the fast.
And is Sonam Wangchuk's demands the same as yours, or is his Ladakh protest still alive and part of this?
So he's sitting on two issues because he's an educationist and also an environmentalist. So he is sitting on the issue of Ladakh as well as the issues raised by the CJP, which is the Dharmendra Pradhan's accountability.
No,
Either
so
of them
what will
gets
make him give up
fulfilled,
his
he'll break
fast?
his fast.
Yeah, what will make him break his fast?
Either one getting fulfilled.
Okay. There's a question from Shashank Kumar who says, why is only Sonam sir sitting on the hunger protest? Why is no one else from the core CJP party supporting him in the same manner?
So that is not entirely true. Yesterday, core members of the CJP were sitting on a one-day hunger strike. It's called a solidarity fast, which something
Okay.
Sonam ji himself has encouraged everyone to do at the protest site. So we are taking turns sitting on solidarity fast, which could be 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. But really, Faye, the issue is the kind of state repression that we are anticipating and the kind of firefighting that we do. It is absolutely impossible for the team to sit on prolonged hunger strike because all of us are stretched, all of us are under severe pressure from the police, from the administration, and you never know when things could go wrong because we are at Jantar Mantar, which is a very controlled space. There are only two entry exit points. The police has complete control over the area. So we are really, firefighting every single day, and that does not make it feasible for all of us to go on prolonged hunger strikes.
So there have been questions also about your party funds, right? Um, my question, and you keep saying in your previous interviews that it's all crowdfunded, but do you have a structure in place? So is the CJP registered? Do you have a bank account? Are people donating officially? Because at some point one would expect some agencies would want to look at your finances. Can you tell us what the structure is right now?
Right now, we are not registered, and therefore the question of a bank account and stuff does not arise. What we are doing, of course, is crowdfunding, a lot of which is directly taken care by the benefactors, which are people who come to the protest. So a lot of people come and say that they want to donate food, they want to, sponsor 5 days of meal for the people. So we have these people who provide us water, food, related expenses, which are, the main expenses of every single day. So that is being taken care of by the people themselves out of their sheer goodwill. And
Okay.
a lot of stories are made about, some political parties funding it, or George Soros funding it and stuff like that. But unfortunately, for these people, I would just say that there's something called goodwill, and people do exercise it when they connect with a cause, with a movement like this.
So let me take you through a couple of more questions. There's one person, Jatin says, why did the CGP decide to give stage to politicians from TMC? I think they're referring to Mahua Moitra, who was on stage speaking on the mic last night or the night before. So let me broaden that question. Are you open to collaborations with other political parties? Are you worried about what that will make it seem like, that you're part of the opposition? What's the strategy there?
So it's an open call. The protest is an open call. We have invited people from all political shades to come join the protest. And
Mm.
that includes the BJP also, and the BJP's youth wing, or student wing, or whatever. But two conditions for sure. Number one is that they relate to the cause, they support the cause that we are fighting for, which is a just, transparent, fair, accountable system, with immediate accountability of the education minister. And number two, that
Okay.
they believe in the right to protest peacefully. If these two conditions are fulfilled, then the BJP is also, welcome to come on the stage and answer people's queries, put their point of view forward. So we are not averse to any political party joining us, and that includes the TMC or an Aam Aadmi party or the Congress for that matter. So the stage is open to all as long as they fulfill these two conditions.
What happens in a hypothetical world? Let's assume Dharmendra Pradhan resigns tomorrow. He's replaced by somebody else. Um, will you then move on to other issues? Does that solve your problem? What is the longer plan for the party?
See, we have been very clear that the present protest is a battle, and a battle can be won in a few days' time, weeks, or months, right? But the
Hmm.
movement itself is a war, and the war takes a lot longer for you to win. So the war is against a opaque system, a non-accountable, non-answerable system, and that is what we want to clean. That is what we want to hold accountable. So our focus is the youth, and we will keep raising youth centric issues once some accountability is fixed on Pradhan's side. That includes education, health, unemployment, everything that concerns the youth.
Which, brings me to my next question. Vikram has also asked this question. What is your ideology? What is your take on the problems within India right now? He goes on to say the Hindu Muslim community, there are issues there as well. So, fundamentally, when you say that, obviously, we could sit here and talk all day about the kind of problems that India is facing. But what is your ideology about the kind of problems India is facing?
See, we've been very clear that our ideology is the Constitution. The Constitution guarantees us certain rights, the right to equality, the right to freedom of speech, the right to life and liberty, the right to
Hmm.
a speedy and fair trial. All of this is our ideology, and that is what we are fighting for. Because many of these rights have been restricted, they have been curtailed to a great extent. For instance, Jantar Mantar, right?
Yeah.
Yogendra Yadav, one of the most senior activists, he was on stage and he was actually telling us 15 years back the space, the road, was not as restricted as it is now. The Jantar Mantar road, it used to be bigger, much more in length, but that has been restricted, and that really shows how much democracy has also been restricted, and it has gotten smaller, the space for dissent. So all of these rights have been curtailed, and we are very clear that we are fighting for those rights. And most, because our population is 65% youth, so we are, the voice of the youth and the issues that they face. So that is our ideology, for the time being.
Okay. Interesting. I have more questions, but I want to focus right now on what you're doing. You did say speedy trial and the freedom to protest. And I know that you were asked about Umar Khalid. Incidentally, Umar Khalid yesterday was denied bail again after 6 years in jail without a charge sheet filed, without his trial starting. We don't even know what the charges are against him technically without the charge sheet. And you've tracked courts very closely. But you've refused to comment on this as a spokesperson of the CJP. Why don't these things fall into your ideology then?
Not at all. I mean, I have not shied away from commenting on the issue. But the fact is, Faye, as you would have seen from our June 6th protest, from our June 20th protest, there are, people who constantly try to come and label you as something or the other. So
Okay.
we as a movement want to be very careful who we are, telling things to. If, say, for
Okay.
example, a Godi media channel comes and they start picking up, several issues, they might, want our comments on Ram Mandir, on Hindu Muslim issue, or Pakistan, or anything of that sort, and try to label us and, derail the movement. So we've been very careful that we don't give fodder to such narratives and to such media houses, and hence you would see some restriction. But to you, I can of course say, and to your audience, that we are all for right to a speedy trial and a fair trial. Anyone who's incarcerated, no one deserves to be incarcerated without a trial for these many years. It's been more than 5 years. So
Mm.
nobody deserves such a fate, and it is actually a sad reflection. On a personal note, if I say, it's a sad reflection of the state of our judiciary, which is supposed to
Yeah.
be this bulwark against, state repression and violation of our rights. But in many instances, you see the courts themselves aiding and abetting such illegalities and sad state of affairs. But that is the situation we are in, and I think it is the next generation, the future of this country, that has to realize what has gone wrong and take responsibility of their futures and the future of this country.
That's a really important point, and I'm so glad you brought it up, right? Because see, we have Sujit who has said, "How are you making sure you don't end up a meme party and people actually take you seriously?" And if I were to slightly tweak that question and broad base it, I would say, you know, getting people to support something online, sharing it, liking it, joining, doing the whole hashtag activity is not that hard. But getting them to translate that into actual physical offline support, translating that into a structure of some sort becomes very difficult, especially in our country today. And there's a sense of despondency and hopelessness because people are saying, look what happened to the TMC, look what happened to the Aam Aadmi Party, look what happens to opposition, look what happens to people who protest. Why don't you just stay home, stay dry? What's your response to that? Do you believe that there is enough gumption among young people to come out and, like you said, take control and change it? This is yours, you need to fix it. How are you going to translate that online support into offline support?
See, I think the protests that we've been doing for the past 1 month, today is 5th July, and we started our protest on 6th of June.
6th of
So
June,
it's,
yes.
yeah, so we are meeting right after 30 days. So I think all that we have learned in the past 1 month is that there's a lot of support for this movement and for this idea that the young of this country have to take
Hmm.
responsibility and have to speak up now, because it's now or never. The kind of institutional capture that is taking place, the Supreme Court is captured, the Election Commission is captured, the Central Information Commission is captured, the Parliament is captured, in a sense that bills are bulldozed, policies are made without any debate, discussion, any meaningful ideation taking place. So all our institutions are crumbling, and ultimately, what lasts are people that have to come out on the roads and protest against such a regime. So I think there's a lot of support. We have traveled across some states. We have come back to Delhi. We started our protest in Delhi, and the feedback that we are getting from the ground is that there's a lot of support and goodwill for this movement, precisely because people now realize that things are not gonna sustain in this fashion if the things continue in this manner. So I think people are waking up. There's a lot of awareness, and we as a movement are constantly trying to take this movement to the grassroots, because we are constantly asked whether this will become a political party. But I constantly tell them that there are about 750, 800 registered political parties in India. What has anybody achieved even 75 years after independence? We are still fighting for clean air, for clean water, for better roads, for footpaths. Nothing really has changed, and that is because people have been suppressed. There's a lot of
Mm,
fear in people's heart. They don't want to protest, precisely because, like you mentioned, that they could be put in jail. There could be long incarceration and things like that. But I think as a movement, we are trying to change that. We are trying to create awareness at the grassroots, so that people realize what their rights are, realize that there are more people like them who think, and then whichever party be in power, they'll be able to make them work for the people. And even the place at Jantar Mantar, a lot of people ask us, it's very convenient for the government. You guys are sitting at one stretch of the road in some corner of Delhi, and the government will not bother unless go and get detained or create chaos, chakka jam karo, and all of that. But
mm,
to them, we also say that such spaces are very hard one. Such spaces don't exist anymore in India, especially in the national capital. There's a 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. restriction for people to protest in these sites. Now, for the past, it was a 16 day. For the past 16 days, what we have created is also a space where people from all over the country are coming, discussing ideas, debating views, people from all political ideologies, and going back home with that awareness and spreading it in their own areas. I think that is a huge achievement in itself.
So Aman Peshawari has said that Pradhan will lose the ministry to Nirmala Sitharaman. What happens? Saurav's already answered that question, that they'll take a call as and when that does happen. So effectively cross the bridge when they get to it. A couple of other questions coming in that have already been answered. Um, I want to ask you though personally, Saurav, as a journalist, do you continue to work as a journalist? Is the CJP now full time? And if you continue to work as a journalist now that you've joined a political party which is effectively in opposition to current government, does how do you remain unbiased? Doesn't that now threaten your credibility as a journalist?
Yeah, it's not a political party as of now. It's a movement. Although the name, such many people would think it's a political party, but it was actually
Yeah.
a satirical answer to the Bharatiya Janta Party. So it's not a political party; it's a people's movement. And as long as it is a movement, I don't see a great amount of conflict there, because a lot of my journalism also stems from some activism or an activisty nature, for that matter. So I think it's only very natural for me to be part of such a movement, as long as it is a movement. If I had joined a political party, then of course this question would arise, but I don't think it arises at the moment. And
So
I will
so far
continue.
we know of Abhijit Dipke and I think three spokespeople that you had announced in the beginning. Who else is in the party, and do you have sort of a org structure in place? Do you have a card? Are people joining? Can people join?
Yes, a lot of people have joined. We had put out a membership form, and a lot of people had signed up. Uh, but yes, we are trying to structure the organization also, and that is something we want to work once this protest at Jantar Mantar is over. We want to do a large scale consultation with stakeholders, with the people of this country, and come out with something great that probably India has never seen. And that is something that we are already working towards. We are talking to a lot of other movements.
Hmm.
You would have read that Kisan unions and other organizations, civil society organizations, have supported us also. So we want to do that kind of consultative exercise, and at the same time work on identifying leadership in different states, bring more people on board, structure this movement in a better way so that things flow better. And also, as you would know, all of us are doing this for the first time. Some of us, maybe like me and Ashutosh, we've been involved with people's movements and protests in the past, but a lot of other people are doing this for the first time, so we are taking it slowly. There's a lot of firefighting already on the ground at Jantar Mantar, so there's little time that we get to think about organizing this movement in a better way. But once this protest is over, that will be our focus. Yes,
How many people on board so far?
I think there are about 8 lakh people who have signed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you were to, sort of paint, and I know I'm pushing you on this a little bit, but if you were to paint the larger picture of where you expect this movement, and I'll call it a movement now, where you expect the movement to be in. So we know the structure that we have right now, right? Within the constitution, within parliament, we have a government, we have opposition, we have courts, we have investigative agencies, we have media. This is the structure under which our democracy functions. Where does the CJP fit in that?
I think right now we are a pressure group, and we want to be a very effective pressure group, because like I
Okay.
said, we want to spread awareness at the grassroots level so that people are realize their rights, people are able to question more freely, and that would ultimately lead to any political party working for those very people, and that is missing in present times. So
Hmm.
right now we want to be an effective pressure group.
And what among the opposition, we know TMC visited and Mahua Motra spoke on the stage. Any other political parties have reached out, helped out,
The
um,
CPI
spoken?
had come. The CPI has supported. The CPI ML has supported. The CPI M has also supported. TMC has supported. The Aam Aadmi Party has also come and supported
Okay.
us. And there are an MP from Congress from Maharashtra had come supporting to support us, and from the DMK as well. So we have more and more parties coming out either on behalf of the party or at their individual level, coming on the stage and showing solidarity with this cause.
Okay. I want to ask you a larger question about education because I know that that's your fundamental focus right now. The entire entrance exam system,
Yeah.
which in my opinion is broken, because as a journalist, I find it particularly distressing that we write about student suicide as much as we do, that we have infrastructure like we do in Kota where children are just locked up for years studying for one examination like it is the end of the world, that we have to actually put grills on fans to keep them from taking their own lives. It's just all of it is so it feels like science fiction on some days when we write it. Is a protest for the education minister's resignation going to be enough, or do we need larger reform in how we do this altogether?
I think a little bit of both, because if Dharmendra Pradhan is held accountable, there will
Hmm.
be a lot of pressure on the next minister to perform. So, and that is a very important check on whoever comes next. People are watching; they would realize that his or her predecessor was fired due to that reason, because of um, um, ways of mass dissent against him. So that would definitely create some pressure on the next person holding that post. And number two, yes, we all do realize that the Dharmendra Pradhan is just one spoke in the wheel. The wheel itself needs to be reinvented, and that requires larger reimagination of the education sector. We really need to address the smallest of issues, probably, for when you look at it policy wise. Smallest of issues could be no locker facility when you go to an examination center, because of
Yeah.
which a lot of students belongings get stolen because they have no place to store it, or something as major as overhauling the national testing agency. or privatization of education. All of these issues need to be addressed, and I think, and that's the sad part, no one in the government seems to be thinking in that manner, and
Hmm.
that is because power has centralized in two places. One with the prime minister's office, and second with the home minister's office, and that is where the bureaucrats and these two people, but take decisions. They call the shots on everything. Today, the education minister, if he wants, he can't call for a press conference without a sanction from the prime minister's office. So that
Hmm.
kind of centralizing effect has had a very, very negative consequence for all ministries, where people who are good in the system, they are sidelined, they are shunted out of the system. So we really need to think what is where we are going wrong, how we can get good people to come within the system, and how we can give them more independence so that things get better. For example, when the 2024 NEET was leaked, there was a committee, high level committee, which was put in place by the government, and that was led by Radhakrishnan. Now, they
Hmm.
submitted a report after a few months, and some of those recommendations that were so important, they were not implemented even 2 years later, and now we again have a paper leak of the same paper, NEET. So that is the kind of
Yeah.
apathy that we are staring at, and nobody is thinking about it for some reason, and things are not being implemented on the ground.
Yeah, Aman Peshawari says there's a NTA center in Sector 64, Noida, close to my factory. Students are made to remove their shoes outside the examination hall. No idea why. It's extremely dehumanizing. That's true. I mean, we have a lot of questions, and people are asking about, what is your take on SC/ST reservation? What is your take on eggs being removed from the midday meal program? How will the movement maintain transparency? So, I mean, I'm assuming that. Um, do you have an ideology fixed for all of these sort of education linked issues, or is the NEET examination and Dharmendra Pradhan what your focus is right now?
Dharmendra Pradhan and NEET is definitely the focus, but yes, we are cognizant of the fact that we need to, come up with a plan for other issues as well, and come out with a clear communication on what we as a movement think about those issues. There's this question that you mentioned about transparency, with our funding and other things. Now the issue is, Faye, as you would know, the government is, behind us. They are closely watching. They are not reacting so that they don't add to the steam, uh, and they are willfully ignoring us. We've been at Janta Manta for so many days, but the prime minister is ignoring us. The entire government is ignoring us, including the political party. But the issue is, the government is after you. They will try to find anything possible to derail the movement. Now, you
Hmm.
would remember that we have to learn from the history also. When the Aam Aadmi Party was launched, they actually put out all their donor details online.
Yeah.
And a person who even donated 100 rupees or 500 rupees was sent an IT notice.
Hmm.
And imagine if that is something that we do. We don't want to put people who associate with us, at such risk, and risk at the hands of a government which is so vindictive. So we too have to very carefully decide on what we can do, and how much of it can we disclose online. We will try as much as possible to be as transparent publicly, but we have to also be very careful, because there are going to be plants, there are going to be moles who are going to be there, will be who the government will try to put within our organization. So we are taking it slowly. We are going to be as transparent as possible.
Okay. So there's a question of, for funds as well, and the whole question of transparency. If people do want to send you money, because we have a couple of people saying, okay, where can we send the money? Is there an answer to that question? Have you figured out
There's
how to do
nowhere
that?
we can. A lot of people come to the protest site also, asking for QR codes, but we have nothing of that sort at the moment, because we are still, seeking advice from our legal team to identify what would be the best way forward to crowd fund. Right now, we are
Mm.
pooling in our own resources, resources of those close to us who we can trust, who we know can, if the government chooses to target them, can fight back. So we are seeking help from those people. But yes, very soon we'll have something, and then people can, support our movement.
Recently it was Dharmendra Pradhan's birthday, and the Prime Minister put out a wish he normally does on Twitter. Did it hurt morale inside the protest, because it felt like, you guys can protest if you want to, but we're going to continue as if nothing is happening.
Frankly, we were not surprised because this is the usual playbook. The prime minister seems to be living in an ivory tower. He chooses not to respond to thousands of youth who are coming out on the streets against his education minister, and then it's almost like rubbing salt on the wounds of the people, of the youth, by wishing him happy birthday and also praising him for
Mm.
implementing NEP and whatnot. I think it's very insensitive, and it did not really affect our morale because we already knew what kind of government apathy we are dealing with here. But yes, we expected the prime minister to maybe maintain silence, but to come out with such flamboyant praise for the education minister, I think it was really insensitive on his part.
Do you guys feel safe? Because there was an incident in Jaipur when Abhishek Dibke was slapped, during that gathering. Is there a sense, even from your loved ones, that you're making yourselves targets, not just of trolling, but maybe something worse?
Trolling is least of our concerns. Faye, for this movement, a lot of liberal commentators also have very
Hmm.
scathing remarks to give, even though they have never visited the site even once. Everything on the basis of what is running online, these liberal commentators are commenting negatively, knowing nothing about what is going on the ground and the kind of pressures we are dealing with. So, trolling is least of our problems. But physical safety, yes, we try to have, we have a big team of volunteers that ensure our safety along with the safety of those visiting the site and staying in through the nights. And the police has also put has been deployed very heavily at the site, which is also not really great, but then it ensures some amount of safety and security, because ultimately people's safety is police's
Hmm.
duty. So they are also doing that. There's a lot of surveillance that happens. There are photographers from the Delhi police who are constantly clicking pictures at the protest site.
Yeah.
Videography is going on. There are several CCTV cameras. There are facial recognition systems in place. All of that is being sold to us as a measure of security, but it is really surveillance. They are profiling who are coming here, and things like that. And people are tailing us also, people who are public faces of the CJP. Every time I go out of the house, there are two people who are following me. They are probably from the CID or the local intelligence bureau. But all of this happens behind Dipke. There's an entire car which follows him or wherever he goes, whenever he finds time to go to the house that he goes for a while. So that kind of surveillance is taking place. I don't know what the government is doing with such data because, the kind of deployment they are doing, the kind of surveillance they are doing, it's almost as though they really consider us terrorists. But I was telling my friend also that every time a person enters Jantar Mantar, a picture is clicked on a DSLR.
Hmm.
I was asking him, ki, how are they going to process all this data? And if a person comes and goes, say, 15 times a day, what are they going to do with such data, right? It's very absurd to see, but such are the times that we live in, dystopian.
No, but I mean, we just talked about Umar Khalid as well, right? It started off as a protest inside of JNU. There were students protesting. He was a student leader, and we've seen now he's been incarcerated for more than 5 years. So, knowing all of what you know as a journalist, are you guys taking precautions within the CG? Are you recording every one of your speeches to just have a copy yourself of everything that has been said? How are you guys dealing with that? Uh,
We are
you know,
definitely trying to, minimize our risk exposure.
Okay.
But unfortunately, because I cover the courts and I closely see how the police works, they really don't need anything to go wrong. They can just cook it up these days. It's all going to be fabricated. They're going to come up with a beautiful story, almost like a movie script about Pakistan hand, Bangladesh hand, God knows Soros's hand. All of that they have tried. It didn't stick initially, but then the police can now put it in a charge sheet, and then that will lend it some credibility, and people are going to run with it. So the very absurd times that we live in, so we try our best to minimize our exposure to these things, but we know that it's not foolproof even if
So,
you're
so
on the side
it's
of law.
not. Yeah. So you're saying there's no way to guess what case they may bring against you, no way to mitigate. So does that also, by extension, mean that you're prepared to be arrested if that happens?
We are all prepared to be arrested, and this decision we consciously took, when Dipke wanted to come back to India after
Okay.
completing his studies, when I joined as the chief spokesperson, and people who are taking public facing roles, all of us knew that one day the government is going to come after us on very absurd charges, and that is going to be spun as those we are anti-nationals and terrorists. They are already calling us terrorists, trying to test the waters, see
Mm.
how the public reaction is, but they're also waiting and watching. They are just waiting and watching to see where we mess up and catch that, and then go against us. So we are all
How did
very,
you how did you and Abhijit Dipke get in touch? Tell me that story.
we had met, I think, a couple of times before this at some
Mhm.
Delhi social party, and we were following each other on Twitter. He was well aware of my body of work. I didn't know too much about him, but there was some mutual respect. And then when he started all of this, he reached out to me. His very first tweet, that "What if all cockroaches united?"
Mm.
That went viral, and then he put out a membership form, and he reached out to me on Twitter saying, "Can you amplify this?" And then I had quote tweeted it. After that, it went viral, and then things happened. So that is how we know each other. Other people, Vijeta Daya, who's the other spokesperson, I had met him a few times before this. Also, Dhruv Rathi is scriptwriter, so it's the same line of work. Ashutosh, I didn't know him before this. Um, yeah, yeah.
Do you have personal ambition of politics at some point in the future, Saurabh?
I haven't thought about it really, because
Doesn't
as a
everybody who lives in Delhi think about it at some point?
yeah, at some point maybe I'll think about it, but not at the moment. I was very happy doing my journalism, going after judges and the judiciary and
Yeah.
the intersection of politics. I was very happy doing that, but right now I haven't thought about it. But as a movement, we definitely keep telling the young people that we meet that more and more young people need to get into politics, because fresh ideas are going to come in. We need young blood in politics because they are more aware of the realities of our time. The entire AI revolution is taking place. I don't know what the hell this government is doing with that. A lot of experts say that we are missing the AI revolution, we are missing the AI bus. So that is what we are reading, and I think younger people in politics is desperately required. We have all these uncles sitting there, not bothering about us at all. So that is something we push for as a movement.
No, but it's interesting. We do have young people. You have Raghav Chadda, you have Tejasvi Surya, you have people
Very
like
wrong
K.
examples.
Well, Raghav Chadda would have been a good example until 2 months ago. K. Annamalai out of Tamil Nadu, out of Chennai, really
Yeah,
interesting young person. There are young people. I think.
few. Few. I
Okay.
think the median age is much higher. I think youth participation is required more. Um,
You know,
and
when you started off, everybody called you a Gen Z protest. By you, I mean, I'm referring to the whole movement. And they said, oh, is this the question that came up? And a lot of people asked me, you know, when I met anyone socially, saying, oh, is this going to turn into like a Nepal type of situation? Is it going to turn into a Bangladesh? Is this a Gen Z protest in that way that's going to overthrow the government? You've come now a month from that date. When you say young people should get themselves involved in politics, I'm assuming you're talking about 20-year-olds in active politics, but even the CJPs, you're saying you don't want to be in active politics, you want to be a pressure group. So, are you going to be a pressure group, or you're encouraging young people to be part of a pressure group, or you want them to be part of active politics in a political party, be part of that structure, say yes sir, no sir to whoever is your higher up?
See, I think movements are also political in nature. So if young people join movements, they are being part of active politics
Okay.
in that sense. And we've been very clear about that.
Okay. All right. Saurav, thank you so much for spending time with me and answering all of these questions. I do hope that we can talk again as your movement develops, because I'm very curious to know what your ideologies will be about so many different things that we can talk about when it comes to youth. The fact that people are losing jobs over AI, um, you know, whether it's this entrance testing, whether it is the national education policy, what's happening in the midday meal scheme. There's a lot we could talk about, but I understand that you currently only want to focus on this one thing. I wish you very good luck, and I hope we can stay in touch.
Thank you, Faye. One question that I would like to ask you:
Sure.
what is it that you are hearing about this protest, about this movement from people in Bombay? I'm assuming you live in Bombay.
Yeah, I live in Mumbai. So initially there was a lot of excitement, but honestly, if I were to tell you, people are now saying, "Acha, fizzle ho raha hai." Like, you know, it doesn't seem to. There's Sonam Wangchuk, who's one individual who has, you know, pulled a lot of goodwill, but the actual idea of the Cockroach Janta Party, at least in Mumbai, is starting. People are not talking about it as much as they used to. So, is that something that you're worried about? That is going to fizzle? People lose interest?
It's not going to fizzle for sure, because we are quite resolved that we need to take this movement forward. And a lot of people, there's a fixed crowd that comes to Jantar Mantar every single day. That shows
Hmm.
that the movement is not fizzling out. But the sad part is, because of the media blackout and because the government refuses to acknowledge this protest and the movement, ignorance is a very powerful tool to kill any movement of this sort, and the government knows this very well. And this is the card that they are playing at the moment. We are quite aware of it. And but we have the Instagram. We have 22 million followers on it. So we have a great medium to disseminate our viewpoints about our protest. So we are using that. But we do, sometimes think, what if the mainstream media was on our side? What if the media was more actively covering it? At the end, I think Mantar would have been a very small place. Maybe Ramlila Maidan could have been filled, which is a capacity of 1 lakh.
Hmm.
So yeah, we do, think about these things and feel sad sometimes about, what the state of our media, what the state of our country is.
Yeah.
But we shall
And I,
overcome.
what are the numbers right now at Jantar Mantar on a daily basis, nightly basis?
So daily there are about 1,500 people by late evenings that join us. During the weekends, the crowd swells more. At night hours, we have about 300, 500 people staying in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I am told
Okay,
that's a
sorry.
great number
Yeah.
for Delhi. A lot of
And for the weather that you have currently here.
yeah, a lot of civil society groups come here, and we tell them the numbers. They're like, this is a huge achievement given the present times, because
Also, I mean, initially you started traveling, but you've decided not to travel and just camp out in Delhi until you have your
we
demands met.
started
Is that?
out in Delhi, and then we wanted to go to different cities, mobilize people there, check what the sentiment is about the movement. And when we got great feedback, we decided to come back to Delhi and camp here until accountability is fixed. So that was the idea.
Okay. All right, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you very, very good luck. Let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.